This is a production of SDPB.
Coming up on Game Time, we've got state basketball tournament to talk about. We relive the best moments of the girls' state tourney and look forward to what should be a terrific set of boys' brackets. All coming up next on Game Time.
Game Time is supported by the South Dakota Career and Technical Student Organization Center. Through CTSOs, South Dakota students can learn professional development, leadership, and industry-specific skills, helping students learn, lead, and succeed.
Another week of Game Time here on SDPB. I'm Nate Weck, joined as always by Jason Andera. Jandy, we've had 3 wonderful girls' state tournaments that took place last week and over the weekend, and we're going to quickly shift gears here this week as well to preview the state boys basketball tournaments that are going to be coming up from Rapid City and Aberdeen this week. But I guess, first impressions, you had O'Gorman three-peat on the girls' side. Lennox ended up doing everything they needed to do at the state tournament. They got it done. And then on the B side, you had Ethan return to the promised land as the Rustlers won, I believe, their first state title since 2015. So let's just kind of go through it. First impressions, I guess.
My first impression is none of the number 1 seeds got it done. No one was safe in this tournament. Right from a number 1 seed losing right in the first round to a number 1 seed like Brandon Valley losing on the very last day. But seeds didn't matter that much. We had a 4 and a 5 seed get it done in this tournament, in these tournaments, and it just shows you anything can happen when it comes to state basketball, and anything did happen in a lot of these brackets.
All right, well, let's start with the Class AA and kind of go through that. It sort of went as expected day one. Really the only one that maybe could have went either direction was that Rapid City Stevens versus Aberdeen Central.
Yeah, and Aberdeen Central, just a small seed upset, got the win over Stevens. Stevens had a little more fans that were able to get there because it was in Rapid City, but Aberdeen Central really rebounded well and got it done.
All right, well, then we get to the semifinal night. Now, I know we had a conversation about this last week because we were kind of looking at, Brandon Valley, it looks like they should be able to get to that championship game if all kind of goes according to plan and they play the way they've been playing all year. But there was 2 teams that we said might give Brandon Valley some fits, O'Gorman and Sioux Falls, Washington, and those 2 teams met up on semifinal night.
Yeah, and it wasn't as easy as it had been in the regular season for O'Gorman to get past Washington. Washington has grown in so many ways, but they did get the win 66-62, played good enough at the end of that game to punch their ticket. So O'Gorman, wasn't overwhelming on that Thursday and Friday night, but they came out big time on Saturday.
Yeah, in that Saturday game, we were all looking forward to it to see just how it was all going to shake out. And I don't know exactly what it was, but O'Gorman started they started really, really well, and it was just on the Brandon side, it just felt like things were just a very slow start and not quite characteristic early on.
Yeah, it did, and that helps when O'Gorman hits the shots that they did. Sydney Trevine came out red hot to get started. Ruby Moore hit a couple of big shots as well. Ellie Meyer with some big, huge blocks in the middle, really stuffing Olivia Paget and Gracie Salter. And Paget didn't have a field goal in that first half, but to Brandon's credit, they came back, even despite Paget not having a big day, even despite Trevine having a big day. They came back, tied it up, but it was O'Gorman's night. The second half, they just pulled it away.
Yeah, and that's just, I know it's got to be frustrating for Brandon Valley fans because this, look how good O'Gorman's been these last 3 years. And it just felt like this was the year that it was maybe going to go the other direction. And O'Gorman, I don't know if it's just the experience of being there, with some of these players and kind of living up to that moment. But, man, it seems like when the lights are shining the brightest, O'Gorman, they're kind of given that a little bit of that Roosevelt Rough Rider feel from the late 90s, early 2000s with just the way they play in some of these big games.
People are starting to talk about dynasty when you win 3 in a row and have won as often as they have here in this decade in the 20s. A lot in common is that head coach, Kent Colzer, and after the game, Kent talked about how proud he was of his team.
Yeah, it was, and give credit to Brandon Valley. Great basketball team, played a tremendous game, and they got a lot to be proud of. So Coach Mattis is in charge of our defense, and Olivia Paget's a fantastic player. We knew we had to do something to try to make her at least have to earn her points, keep her in check. I thought that's where we won the game, was on the defensive end. Kids did a really nice job rebounding, and Sydney Trevine was amazing. 33 points and just made huge plays. Ruby Moore, Sadie Merman, and just a complete team win. So tremendously proud of our kids.
All right, then we got the Class A girls tournament that took place from the Civic Arena in Watertown. And this was one, we talked about Machpealuta all year long. We talked about, that other side of the bracket where you got Wagner, Sioux Falls Christian. There was just a lot of variables there. Lennox over there too. And it was just, what's going to happen as we kind of roll our way through this. And yeah, I saw what I expected. I guess a little bit of Machpealuta on Thursday and Friday. That Friday game when they had to go up against Sioux Falls Christian, that rematch from a year ago, that was a big one. And it had some moments there where it was close, and then Machpealuta was able to kind of pull away to punch their ticket to that championship. But I guess what are your overall impressions of Class A and the way that this thing shook out?
Yeah, we talk about all those teams, and Hamlin was the one that was ranked number 1, and they had a tough battle right off the bat with Lakota Tech, and Lakota Tech, pushed them, especially in the first half of that game. So we knew this tournament was going to be highly contested, and then we saw what Lennox did to Sioux Valley. That was a statement right out of the gate, how they played defense against them, and then Lennox carried that momentum especially on the defensive side in the semis, and then Machpealuta with that exclamation point that they put against Sioux Falls Christian, a little revenge for what happened last year. It set up a great night on Saturday night where you had the hottest team in the class. Machpealuta hadn't lost maybe one game in the last 2 years against this Lennox team that was playing defense at a different level.
Yeah, in that first half, it really felt like it sort of felt a little bit like that Sioux Falls Christian game from Machpealuta where it was a little bit back and forth, and then Machpealuta kind of stretched it out a little bit, and it came into that second half, and all of a sudden you got Peters knocking down shots, and the momentum just started to change over where there was a lid on the basket for Machpealuta. Everything seemed to be going in for Lennox, and it just completely shifted momentum. And really from that point forward, Lennox never looked back.
No one's been able to handle the frantic pace that Machpealuta's put all year until Lennox did it. They showed it with that 1-3-1 zone that came out and stifled Machpealuta like they hadn't been stifled yet this year. And Lennox cruises in for the win.
All right, and it's the first state championship from Lennox since 1988 for that girls program, which is almost 4 decades now, even though 1988 maybe doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah.
It's almost 4 decades since they've won a girls state title.
It's a really proud basketball town, too, so congratulations. And Adam Quayle has had some teams get close in his tenure, but this year got it done. Here's Adam Quayle after the big win.
The girls just stuck together. We got down. We were down 6 at half. Held it together. Strung a couple possessions together in the second half, and got some stops defensively that led some run-out layups, and we finally got going a little bit.
And then you had the Class B tournament taking place from the newly renovated Frost Arena, which is now First Bank and Trust Arena in Brookings. Great atmosphere throughout the tournament. I was at the Class B tournament this year in Brookings for it. And yeah, we started it off with an absolute bang when Corsica Stickney, the 8th seed, came out and took down top-seeded Lyman right away.
And that was one I don't think a lot of people were thinking about, but Corsica Stickney brought a really solid group of seniors, and they played well. They did everything they needed to do to get that thing done, and that set the tone for this tournament, in my opinion.
And then you have, Harding County, okay, the 6, they're the 6th seed coming into this. They've been the 1 seed, they've been the 2 seed in years past. So they kind of went under the radar, maybe people not thinking that they were going to be a contender. And then they come out storming and had a couple big wins, and before you know it, they find themselves in that championship game.
To me, Harding County getting past Bennett County was a bigger surprise than even Lyman losing on the opening day. That was huge for Harding County, and this is a team that's doing it with a lot of young players that really played not scared out there. Jay Wahman, he had his girls going 100 miles an hour. And so for Ethan to get that big win on Thursday against Coleman Egan, that felt, like we talked about last week, more like a Friday or Saturday game. And then to come back and take down Corsica Stickney with a bunch of momentum behind them, they were playing defense at another level, and it showed up on Saturday night when they were able to hold Harding County and no one else was consecutive nights.
Yeah, very, very polished Ethan program. They're just a fun team to watch, too. When things are clicking for Ethan and how they translate, like you said, that good defense, as soon as they get like a big stop or some sort of turnover or something like that, the way that they can transition it to the offensive side is incredibly impressive, especially on the B side where you sometimes don't see it that polished. Ethan looked incredible incredibly polished.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. And then after the championship, Tom Young expressed how good this feeling was for he and his team.
I got to hand it to my seniors. They were leaders all year, and they have a high basketball IQ. But, we're a team from 1 to 12, and those bench girls didn't really get in, but, man, they play hard during practice and make everybody better. If I was ever to say we're a unified one team, this is it.
All right, so there's kind of the rundown of our 3 state champions. Congratulations to Ethan, congratulations to Lennox, and of course, congratulations on the 3-peat for O'Gorman. All right, we're going to switch gears now, like everybody else in the state is doing. We're switching gears over to the boys' state tournaments, which will begin this Thursday. 2 tournaments in Rapid City. You got the AA in the Ice Arena, A at the Summit Arena, and then, of course, the B boys up in Aberdeen at the Barnett Center. So let's just kind of go through these. Let's start with AA, Jandy. I think, it's got to start right out the gate with Sioux Falls Lincoln as that number 1 seed.
Yeah, this is a team that has been the best team in AA over the last 2 years. They did have that hiccup. There are nights that they've shown up where they haven't been able to shoot quite as well, but they usually find a way to win. They did lose last year to Mitchell. They've got that in the back of their mind, but what they do is they don't turn the ball over and they create shots at a highly efficient rate, more than any high school team, I think, in this entire state right now. And it starts with their point guard, Brody Schaefer, who's over 6 assists per game. His assist to turnover ratio at 3-to-1. Their whole team's assist to turnover ratio is at 2-to-1. That's crazy efficient, and that's what this team does. Sam DeGroat, over 20 points or nearly 20 points per game. He does everything for him at all 3 levels. And then Sam Erickson, he started out the year a little bit cold shooting, but ever since he played in that President's Bowl game, he's been shooting over 40% from 3. And you add that to what they already have, and then maybe the most important thing about this team is what a team they are. They can go 10 deep if they need to, and they don't seem to skip a beat.
Yeah, and that's such a big deal, right, when we talk about depth, because some teams have some really impressive players, but when you start looking at the depth, it's just not there. And if you run into foul troubles and stuff like that with some key players, it can completely derail you. Lincoln, I don't think, has that problem just because of the depth that they do have. And then you look at T area, they're sort of like that 1-2 punch. They come in as the 9 seed. We don't reseed in AA, so they'll be the 9 seed, and they're going to have to take on Lincoln right away to start the quarterfinals. And they're sort of that 1-2 punch where they've got a couple players that, if you're not paying attention, can burn you out.
Well, a couple juniors, Gavin Shaw, Griffin Wibinga, have had tremendous years, and this T team is one of the few teams that has been able to play with Lincoln. They pushed them earlier this year, but T did not come down the stretch the way they wanted to. They lost a few, and it looked like maybe wouldn't even make the state tournament, and then got a win in the Sodak 16. Had to go on the road and take on a Spearfish team, so maybe that's the momentum they need to get back. Now they play Lincoln, a team they know they can play with. Again, anything could happen.
Yeah, the 1-8 seed is not a guarantee anymore whatsoever when we're looking at these brackets, as we saw last week. And then you got Harrisburg versus Watertown to start off that quarterfinal. Harrisburg, they did beat Watertown late in the year, but Watertown, having a phenomenal season, all things considered, have completely flipped it around from where they were a year ago. This one should also be fun. I love the 4-5.
This should be one of the best of the entire Thursday. I like what Stellan Larson and Clayton Gibbon bring for scoring for Harrisburg. They usually will play almost all guards on the court. Defensively, they don't all play guard, but on offense, it feels like they all play guard. But they've got Cole Quaker, who can hit some big threes. And when he gets going, I think it really helps this team spread out on the offensive side because they have so many different guards. So look for maybe him to make some key shots in this game to go with Clayton Gibbon and Stellan Larson, who've been really the power duo for them. But Watertown on the other side, they've got so much help from players that were playing JV ball last year, and they've stepped into the lineup and made a huge difference. Carter Bisker being one of those guys. But the entire team has really helped out. Last year we saw Jackson McClemens lead the team in scoring, and I think because he hasn't had that shoulder load, he's actually been better this year.
Right, because he doesn't have to be the guy, like as you said, kind of putting all of the pressure and having to make plays all the time. It's actually, it's improved his role where he can now not try to force shots and can take them when they're there. And he's also incredibly efficient when he does decide to shoot the ball.
He's a tough matchup.
He is. So you add that, and then you add, his dad, Pat McClemens, is the head coach, and he knows a thing or two about basketball. So
he's getting there done. But Jack Mack and Carter Bisker, to me, emergence of those two players has made this team a real contender in this tournament.
All right, and then we've got Sioux Falls Roosevelt versus Brandon Valley. What do you like with this one? Roosevelt's a team that you were really high on early in the year.
Yeah.
They
struggled a little bit down the stretch.
They did. So what do you think we see here between this?
Well,
matchup?
you get one side, Brandon Valley, they're going to try to slow the game down. They're going to try to play as physical as possible, but sometimes they don't get enough shooting. So we'll see if Lincoln McInerney, the sophomore, maybe takes his game to another level. But they've got the bruisers and Austin Dowd down low, and some of the younger players have really stepped up for them. Ayul Dang's going to play a huge role as one of the few seniors they have to really put up some big points for them. But Roosevelt's a team that's really balanced. I mean, they have pretty much anybody that's on the court can lead their team in scoring. 4 of their starters average over 10 points per game. And then you add in their point guard who makes things happen in CJ Schmaus. This is a legitimate team that can match up with anybody in the class. Yes, they did have a little struggle down the stretch, but I think this is a team that can flip it back on and be ready now that everybody's got their role defined.
And Brandon Valley, they got good depth too.
Oh yeah, they can go 5 or 6 deep off the bench, and the reason they do that is to keep everybody fresh because it's defense first, it's rebounding first, but points is going to be maybe the issue for Brandon Valley. Can they get enough points to hang with a team like Roosevelt?
All right, and then we've got a fun one too to end the night with AA in the quarterfinals. Huron versus O'Gorman. O'Gorman lost to Huron, late
close,
February as well.
They just played.
So, I mean, again, it's 3-6 matchup. We'll see what we get out of it. But these are all matchups I think that are going to be fun, and this one could potentially go either way.
I think this is one of those games where both these teams have really high ceilings in this tournament, but they also, it could go the other way. We've seen games where they both fell flat. But I think these are two teams, Huron playing the way they are now. O'Gorman seems like since the halfway point has really improved as a team. And it's interesting because this O'Gorman team gets it done with their backcourt. One of the best backcourts in the state, Camden Cece and Mason Clark. But they have Chase Hermanson who can also get some points. They don't have the typical O'Gorman team that just has depth and finds ways to make stuff happen. They've got some guards that really make it happen. Huron, on the other hand, they take up a ton of room. They've got reach at every single position on the court, but can they avoid the turnovers? I think they've had success when they've been able to bring up the ball, get into their system, and really run that offense efficiently from the inside to free up the outside shots. And when they haven't played well are the games that they're turning the ball over, and O'Gorman can cause some turnovers, so this one could be interesting.
All right, so that's kind of a short little preview of what we expect to see from AA. Again, the AA tournament out in Rapid City, but will take place in the Ice Arena, which I think is also a fabulous facility.
Yeah, hopefully people fill it up. People come from across the state. The weather should be a little bit better than it was last week, so go support your AA teams.
All right, and then we got the Class A side of the boys. Really looking forward to this tournament as well. We've got Sioux Falls Christian that's in it, obviously, that got the 1 seed, but, West Central, as that 2 seed, a lot of people are like, well, they should have been.
How did that happen? Yeah.
Right, so
they played each other, and that didn't go that right.
Right. So I think, there's a lot of conversations happening there, but then you start peeling the layers back and you see how Clark Willow Lake has played this season. They're really, really solid. Hamlin, another good team. So, let's just kind of start it off. Class A.
Well, West Central might be happy that they didn't get the 1 seed because the 8 seed in this tournament, St. Thomas More, is one of the best 8 seeds I've seen in a while. They feature Buzzy Gilton, who, not only leads the team in scoring, but assists. Gotta love people that lead the team in scoring and assists. And they've got so many athletes. They looked at their roster, and everybody's going to college to play either football or golf or basketball or baseball. They've got tons of great athletes on this team, so that's going to be a tough matchup. But Sioux Falls Christian might have the most dominant player in this class in what Wassener's done this year. He's, 22.9 points per game, 7.4 rebounds. He went for 36 points in the Sodak 16. But as a team, they out-rebound their opponents, and that's why this team wins.
Yeah, rebounding so important. We saw that too on the girls' side of the state. Well, all the state tournaments, a lot of times the team that won that rebounding battle often was times the team that won it. So rebounding definitely going to be a key there. And then you got Hamlin, Groton area. Groton area, they had a big scare in the Sodak 16 as Pine Ridge kind of brought it all the way back, and it was a game that came right down to the wire. They were able to survive it and get to the state tournament. They're going to face Hamlin, the 4 seed, right out
all
the
the
gate.
tough games Groton played this year, they just came up just short, but they played a really tough schedule, so that could come in handy. Hamlin, on the other hand, one of the top duos in the state. Bowden, Stevenson, Jackson, Wadsworth, both big-time scorers, and they can both shoot from beyond the arc. That's going to be a tough out for them. And then the other games that we need to talk about, West Central, Cheyenne, Eagle Butte. There's no better defense than what West Central's put on. 40 points per game this year, and 2 of the best players in the class, in Connor Mebius and Will Cool. We talked about that assist-to-turnover ratio. I think Connor Mebius leads the state in assist-to-turnover ratio. He is so good, but watch out. They're going to get a lot of help from beyond those 2, but those are 2 guys to watch. And then Cheyenne, Eagle Butte, they put up points in bunches this year. They're putting up nearly 70 points per game. So that's a little different style than what West Central plays. So it'll be interesting to see, who wins in their style of play.
And Cheyenne Eagle Butte took down a Mockpia-Luda team on the
That was
boys'
huge.
side, and Mockpia-Luda, their boys' team, won the LNI back in December. Very, very good program, a very improved basketball program from Mockpia-Luda, so a very
Yes.
quality win.
CEB's worked really hard. A lot of those players have really dedicated their off seasons to coming to Sioux Falls to work on their game, and it's definitely showing.
All right, and then Clark Willow Lake, they're finding themselves as the 3 seed. They're going to take on the 6 seed in Stanley County in the quarterfinal round.
Yeah, Clark Willow Lake, I still think of them as a young team, but they've been playing for a while. But they have the one senior, Emerson Larson, is really their glue guy in this tournament. We know Sully Feldberg and Chris Beavers do a lot of the scoring. Bo Begeman does a lot of the work down low. But they are just the best sense of a team. And we talk about defenses. We know that's what makes West Central so good, but that is the name of the game for Clark Willow Lake. Just an outstanding defense this year. From points per game to their rebounding to what they allow on the field goal percentage on the other side, they are phenomenal. And Stanley County, a new position for them, but congratulations. Eddie Duffy, Paxton Deal really provide the scoring. They're going to have to knock some shots in from three-point land this year. They're averaging 32% from beyond the arc. They're going to have to make that a big part of their game if they want to get past Clark Willow Lake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, looking at this field of teams, I mean, you kind of said it, Sioux Falls Christian, they got the 1, but they're going to have to work for it.
They're going to have to work right away. I think they've got one of the tougher lines into the Saturday night if they're going to make it. But really, all year we've been talking about Sioux Falls Christian and West Central is feeling like the top 2 teams. Clark Willow Lake definitely made some noise. Played West Central really close. Played both the teams this year, but I still think West Central, Sioux Falls Christian are the heavy favorites here.
All right, and then you got the Class B side of things. All right, Class B, another one of those tournaments this year where maybe, last year there was a lot of chatter about it's got to be Castlewood's year, just with Lowry and all that kind of stuff. And it looked like a business trip a year ago for Castlewood with the way that they kind of went through things. This year, man, I don't know what's going to happen.
Every Class B coach I've talked to, they do the same thing. Everybody's throwing their hands up in the air. We have no idea what to expect. And you can look at the regular season. I mean, Robert Hurley lost to Hamlin, Centerville, Wessington Springs. I mean, that's 3 losses, and they're the number 1 seed here. You've got Aberdeen Christian, who lost 3 games. Castlewood has lost 3 games, all to Class A teams.
Yep.
DeSmet has lost to those same teams, plus they lost head-to-head against Castlewood. So, and then you got Freeman, who feels like the hottest team in this class with 19 wins in a row, but they lost a couple games early on too. So everybody's beatable in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, kind of go through it. You're going to get Viborg Hurley versus Lyman in the quarterfinals to start it off. What does Lyman need to do, to try to limit what Viborg Hurley can do?
Well, Lyman features a lot of really good juniors, but these juniors have been playing varsity ball for 3 years now, and I feel like they're playing a good matchup here in Viborg Hurley because they're very similar. Nobody has a true post player, but everybody's like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", so I feel like athletically, Lyman's the type of team that can hang with a team like Viborg Hurley, but Viborg Hurley has been so good, and they've got Brady Schroedermeyer, who has been outstanding this year. This guy has been he went 13 of 15 in the Sodak 16. He's been carrying his team all year. I think he's the difference maker where you have MJ Diem for Lyman, who's really their stud, but he's a little smaller guy, doesn't take over games as much. He can get super hot shooting the ball, but I don't think he takes over the games as quite the way Brady Schroedermeyer does.
All right, and then we've got Aberdeen Christian, a team that's pretty familiar with getting to the state tournament. It seems on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, they're starting to get there.
And they got to take the down. They have to go up against. Have a showdown against the defending champs in Castlewood right out the gate.
Yeah, Aberdeen Christian playing their best ball of the season right now. They had a few hiccups throughout the season where you're like, are we sure everything's okay? But they've really got it together with back-to-back wins over Warner and Sioux Falls Lutheran, a couple of winning teams. But Castlewood, to me, has not lost a game in Class B this year, and they come in at this seed. That's a tough matchup for Aberdeen Christian. Their defense has been huge. Will Adderhold has had to play big for what Lowy did last year. He's had to play that role, and they've got a true star in Camden Kessler. It's going to be a tough task for Aberdeen Christian in this opening round.
I think they have the best defense in Class B this year.
I do, and I think because they focus so much on that defensive side, that's what's going to help them be at their best in this tournament.
All right, and then we've got Freeman going against Sully Buttes. Sully Buttes, gets to the state tournament against a tough Dupree team right at the horn, right?
Yeah.
So, Sully Buttes, massive excitement to make it, and they're going to have to go up against Freeman, who is, you could flip a coin as far as like who people think is the top seed.
The favorite, yeah.
And Freeman's definitely a team that people are considering to be the top team. So, what do you do if you're Sully Buttes here in the opening round against Freeman?
Well, you rely on the guy who's almost got 2,000 career points, Wesley Whitler. If he goes crazy in this tournament, has a chance to get to that 2,000 point mark, which is pretty sacred in high school basketball. He has been absolutely everything as advertised this year. So they're going to have to lean on him. But Easton Moore, Gavin Colson, Jet Yackley, those are double-digit scorers. They're going to have to step up in a big way, not only on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, because Freeman's a tough matchup. David Walter, Tate Sorensen, Luke Peters, those guys are tough to match up with their physicality and their ability to shoot the basketball.
Yeah, and then, you talk about the year that, David Waltner has had. Such an impressive year. He was good a year ago, but holy cow, this kid took an extra step.
I think so. 18.3 points per game, almost 8 boards per game. He can dish the ball. But defensively, I think that's where he's taking a big step up. And just physically, he is really tough to match up with. So look for David Walter to be one of the players to watch in this tournament over these 3 days.
All right, then you got DeSmet. They've got one of the best basketball players in the class this year in Grant Wilkinson. And they're going up against, Wall, another incredibly athletic unit with a few really good studs.
Well, we've got 2 of the highest scorers in this game. Grant Wilkinson, who gets a lot of his points, right under the bucket, getting offensive rebounds sometimes, 24 points per game. Against Thielen Kierstad, who maybe is one of the best three-point shooters. He can create a shot really anywhere on the court, but he loves to shoot from beyond the arc. He's averaging almost 30 a game at 27.9. But his teammate Emmett Dinger has been huge, and all those guys played on the football team that got it done. I think the mindset is really good for this Wall team. I'm talking about all the players on the team played for that football team. So they're going to come in with a great mentality. But DeSmet with Noah Luthmers, he's really stepped up big time this year. Grant Wilkinson underneath, and even Carter and Slayton Wilkinson have had their roles this year increased, and they've done a great job.
Yeah, the other thing with Wall, what do they average? Almost 20 assists a game as a team.
They can
very good at finding, distributing that ball around, finding the open man, and making, taking advantage of stuff like that. Coaches love it when you see that ball going around constantly and passing down low. Coaches absolutely love that when they see so many touches, because it makes the defense scramble. And those eyes start wandering, and before know it, pretty soon something opens up.
And that's why they've been so good shooting the three. I think they get a lot of assists, just like you said, moving it around the perimeter, open for a three, and they knock that down. So, again, that's going to be huge in this game. A team that they're going against is going to be trying to dominate the paint. Maybe they can get hot from outside and challenge DeSmet.
All right. Well, we're certainly excited for another week of state tournament basketball here in South Dakota. Again, Class B is taking place in Aberdeen. Both the A and AA tournament will be taking place in Rapid. The start times are all local. So when you see 11 o'clock out in Rapid, that is mountain time. So all those Rapid City games here on the central side of the state and central time zone, those will start at noon. So, yeah, we're ready for it, Jandy. It's going to be a lot of fun. And next week we get to come back again and talk about all of the cool moments from the boys basketball tournament.
Yeah, we'll try to wrap things up for the basketball season on Game Time here. It's been great having you guys along. Let us know if you have any suggestions or anything else we can do on the show, but we love having this partnership with you.
All All right. Well, he's Jason Andera. I'm Nate Weck. Another week of Game Time here on SDPB.